Hi everyone, I would like to welcome you to the Bible study today, and hopefully we will get it finished today. We should. I made this into like a 3-part thing. I apologize. What? I would like to start out with a prayer request. Let's get the prayer request done first in case we run out of time. Please keep in prayer my Aunt Cindy Welsh. She is really sick. She started out with just a sore throat and not being able to talk very well, but now it has really went into her lungs and everything, and all she's been doing is laying around and feeling horrible, which if you know her is not her. And it sounds like it has went into bronchitis now. She is in her 60s. Please pray for her. You know, when you get older, it's harder to fight off things, and she doesn't have insurance, so you know, she can't afford to go to the doctor. She could barely afford to go get her blood pressure medicine. But she's got sky-high blood pressure. It's so bad she has to take, they give her emergency, really super strong blood pressure pill to take when it's, you know, really, really bad, which it's always really high, but anyway, she's really sick. I think it's definitely into bronchitis now, if not pneumonia. Please keep her in prayer. Please keep Luke Boggs in your prayers. He's 11. My sister had him, my best friend, but she's my sister also. He's my sister in Christ. He's only 11. He was at the hospital. So far, they've said he's got GERD, and hopefully that's all, and the medicine will help him. Please pray for Zach Kirby. He's in his 30s, got 2 little kids, a fiance, and he's dying of cancer. Please pray for Elizabeth Jeffries. Please pray for Judy Osborne. She has cancer really bad as well. Please pray for Barb Post. She's home from the nursing home, doing better. Please pray for Linda Thacker. She's not well at all. Please pray for Dora Harper. That's my aunt as well. Her rib popped out the other day and she had to go to the chiropractor. So she's still recovering and in pain. Please pray for Michael Cairns. He's got Crohn's disease really bad, and the bill that they thought they could get financial help with, it's over $4,000 right now, and I know they're like limited income like we are, and they don't got the money to pay it. So please pray that God brings a miracle to Mike, that his financial problem for the Crohn's infusions will be taken care of. And if you know how to help, please let me know so I can relay it to Mike. He's a really good brother in Christ. He's a really good man. Please pray for my husband, Sherman Crabtree, and please pray for April Thacker. Okay, so we got that done just in case. And I want to read you guys a little thing that I wrote down. I'll take refuge in the shadow of your wings. When I'm afraid, I will trust in you. In God, whose word I praise. In God I trust, I will not be afraid. He is always in the boat and will never leave us. In you I feel a stillness in my soul. I thought that was really nice, so I want to read it to you guys. Okay, so we left off when Jesus was getting ready to predict Peter's denial, which of course Peter denies that he's going to deny Jesus, but like I said before when I read this, you never know how you're truly going to act until you're in that situation. You could say that if you were Peter and you was back there with Jesus and all that was going down, that you definitely 100% would not deny him. Well, Peter loved Jesus just like a brother and as his Lord. He was with Jesus every day. He loved him. That was his brother. That was his Lord, his Christ. But when it came down to it, and he was faced, you know, with all those people and faced with being afraid of punishment and death and everything, he did deny Jesus, just like Jesus said he would. And then he felt guilty and cried because, you know, he loved him. But you don't know what you're going to do unless you're truly in that situation. And Jesus knew it was going to happen before it happened. But that did not stop him from loving Peter any less. Okay, so let's finish up our reading. When Jesus told them, "This very night you will all fall away on account of me, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock must be scattered." But after I have risen, they still don't understand what this means. But after oh yes, that's what he meant when he said, "But after I have risen," which will be Easter Sunday, this Easter Sunday, "I will go ahead of you into Galilee." Peter replied, "Even if all fall away on account of you, I never will." Jesus said, "I tell you the truth," Jesus answered. "This very night, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times." But Peter declared, "Even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you." And all the other disciples said the same. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." Jesus was very downhearted and very distraught at this time, because he was also the Christ. Remember, Jesus was also human at this time, and he knew what was going to happen to him, and he could have stopped that at any minute, but he didn't, because of his and our Father's love for us. He knew what was going to happen. His body went through pain just like ours goes through pain. He was human at this point. He knows he's about to be really, really hurt, really, really treated badly, and killed. Not only killed, but mocked, and they just treated him horribly. You'll see. So he was really very distraught right now. Brokenhearted, down. Probably even a little scared. And he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Going a little farther, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me." See, he was afraid. He wanted it to be taken away if at all possible, but could. But this was the only way. And he did it. "Yet not as I will," Jesus said, "but as you will." Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Could you men not keep watch with me for 1 hour?" he asked Peter. "Watch and pray so that you do not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the body is weak." They wanted to stay awake. They tried to stay awake, but you know how your body is when you're extremely tired, and they couldn't help it. They fell asleep. That's why Jesus said the spirit is willing, but the body is weak. He went away a second time and prayed, "My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done." When he came back again, he found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed the 3rd time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour is near, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer." It's hard to even read this when you grow in Jesus. Jesus becomes your best friend. And it's hard to read this, knowing what's going to happen to your brother. Jesus becomes just like your earthly brother here. Not only your God, not only your Lord, not only your Christ, but also your brother, just like a human brother or sister here on earth that you are best friends with. Imagine that happening to them. and you seeing it, and you seeing them in pain, seeing people spit on them and hit them and kill them. But when you grow in Jesus, He becomes your best friend. He is your brother. He is your Christ, your Lord. We're going to see Jesus arrested now. While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived, Judas Iscariot. With him was a large crowd armed with swords and clubs, sent from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had arranged a signal with them. The one I kiss is the man. Arrest him. Going at once to Jesus, Judas said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. Jesus replied, "Friend, do what you came for." Then the men stepped forward, seized Jesus, and arrested him. With that, one of Jesus' companions reached for his sword, drew it out, and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. "Put your sword back in its place," Jesus said to him, "for all who draw the sword will die by the sword. Do you think I cannot call on my Father, and He will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled that say it must happen in this way?" At that time, Jesus said to the crowd, "Am I leading a rebellion, that you have to come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I sat in the temple courts teaching, and you did not arrest me. But this has all taken place that the writings of the prophets might be fulfilled." Then all the disciples deserted him and fled, just as Jesus told them they would. Jesus before the Sanhedrin now, you're going to see. Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the teachers of the law and the elders had assembled. But Peter followed him at a distance, right up to the courtyard of the high priest. He entered and sat down with the guards to see the outcome. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false evidence against Jesus so that they could put him to death. But they couldn't find any because Jesus done no wrong. But that's not going to stop them from lying anyways. But they did not find any, though many false witnesses came forward. Liars. Finally, 2 came forward and declared, "This fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days." Then the high priest stood up and said to Jesus, "Are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you?" But Jesus remained silent. The high priest said to him, "I charge you under oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God." "But I say to all of you, yes, it is as you say," Jesus replied. "But I say to all of you, in the future you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven." That made him really mad. Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? Look now, you have heard the blasphemy. What do you think?" "He is worthy of death," they answered. Then they spit in his face and struck him with their fists. Others slapped him and said, "Prophesy to us, Christ. Who hit you?" They were mocking him, spitting on him, hitting him. No one there to help Jesus. Everyone had fled him, remember. Jesus knew this was going to happen. He warned them, but they didn't believe. Now we're going to start to see Peter disown Jesus. Remember, Jesus said Peter would disown him 3 times before the rooster crowed. Now Peter was sitting out in the courtyard, and a servant girl came to him. "You also were with Jesus of Galilee," she said. But he denied it before them all. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said. Then he went out to the gateway where another girl saw him and said to the people there, "This fellow was with Jesus of Nazareth." He denied it again with an oath. "I don't know the man." After a little while, those standing there went up to Peter and said, Surely you are one of them, for your accent gives you away." Then he began to call down curses on himself, and he swore to them, "I don't know the man." Immediately a rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered the word Jesus spoken. "Before the rooster crows, you would disown me 3 times." And he went outside and wept bitterly. Now we're going to see what Judas does after he realizes what he has truly done. And remember, for 30 pieces of silver, that's how much he betrayed Jesus' life for. Early in the morning, all the chief priests and the elders of the people came to the decision to put Jesus to death. They bound him, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate, the governor. When Judas, who had betrayed him, saw that Jesus was condemned, he was seized with remorse and returned the 30 silver coins to the chief priests and the elders. They're not going to take it. "I have sinned," he said, "for I have betrayed innocent blood." "What is that to us?" they replied. "That's your responsibility." So Judas threw the money into the temple and left. Then he went away and hanged himself. The chief priests picked up the coins and said, "It is against the law to put this into the treasury since it is blood money." So they decided to use the money to buy the potter's field as a burial place for foreigners. That is why it is called the Field of Blood to this very day. Then what was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet was fulfilled. They took the 30 silver coins, the price set on him by the people of Israel, and they used them to buy the potter's field, the field of blood, as the Lord commanded me. Now you're going to see Jesus going before Pilate now. And Pilate, I truthfully think, did not want Jesus killed. I think he knew there was something special about Jesus, and his wife warned him as well. She knew, she dreamed, she knew. And I think Pilate tried many ways to try to get them not to put Jesus to death, but in the end, the people kept wanting Jesus put to death, no one else. So Pilate did what the people wanted instead of doing what was right. Meanwhile, Jesus stood before the governor, Pontius Pilate, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "Yes, it is, as you say," Jesus replied. When he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate asked him, "Don't you hear the testimony they are bringing against you?" But Jesus made no reply, not even to a single charge, to the great amazement of the governor, Pontius Pilate. Now it was the governor's custom at the feast to release a prisoner chosen by the crowd. At that time, they had a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. So when the crowd had gathered, Pilate asked them. Now keep in mind, Barabbas was a murderer. So when the crowd had gathered, Pilate asked them, "Which one do you want me to release to you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ?" For he knew it was out of envy that they had handed Jesus over to him. While Pilate was sitting on the judge's seat, his wife sent him this message: "Don't have anything to do with that innocent man, for I have suffered a great deal today in a dream because of him." But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus executed. "Which of the two do you want me to release to you?" asked the governor. "Barabbas," they answered. "What shall I do then with Jesus, who is called Christ?" Pilate asked. They all answered, "Crucify him." "Why? What crime has he committed?" asked Pilate. But they shouted all the louder, "Crucify him!" When Pilate saw that he was getting nowhere, but that instead an uproar was starting, he took water and washed his hands in front of the crowd. "I am innocent of this man's blood," he said. "It is your responsibility." All the people answered, "Let his blood be on us and our children." Then he released Barabbas to them, but he had Jesus flogged and handed him over to be crucified. Then the governor's soldiers took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole company of soldiers around him. Like I said, picture the person you love most in this world, that you feel you could not live without, and someone you would die for. Being alone in a room with these soldiers and them doing this to that person. Then the governor's soldiers took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole company of soldiers around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on his head. They put a staff in his right hand and knelt in front of him and mocked him. "Hail, King of the Jews," they said. They spit on him and took the staff and struck him on the head again and again. After they had mocked him, they took off the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. Keep imagining the person you love the most going through this. As they were going out, they met a man from Cyrene named Simon, and they forced him to carry the cross, because at this point his body was too weak. They made him try to carry the cross, but he kept falling. So they made Simon carry it. And they forced him to carry the cross. They came to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. There, they offered Jesus wine to drink mixed with gall, but after tasting it, he refused to drink it. When they had crucified him, they divided up his clothes by casting lots. And sitting down, they kept watch over him there. Above his head, they placed the written charge against him. "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." 2 robbers were crucified with him, one on his right, the other on his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. Come down from the cross if you are the Son of God." In the same way, the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the elders mocked him. "He saved others," they said, "but he cannot save himself. He's the King of Israel. Let him come down now from the God he trusts. He trusts in God. Let God rescue him now if he wants him. For he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" In the same way, the robbers who were crucified with him also heaped insults on him. From the 6th hour until the 9th hour, darkness came over all the land. About the 9th hour, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of those standing there heard this, they said, "He's calling Elijah." Immediately one of them ran, and got a sponge. He filled it with wine vinegar, put it on a stick, and offered it to Jesus to drink. The rest said, "Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to save him." And when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook and the rocks split. The tombs broke open, and the bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. They came out of the tombs, and after Jesus' resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared to many people. When the centurion and those who were with him were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and all that had happened, they were terrified and exclaimed, "Surely he was the Son of God." Many women were there watching from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee to care for his needs. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's sons. I want to stop for a minute to say, in the King James Version, it's a little different with the prisoners that were hung beside Jesus. The one was, hurling insults at Jesus and everything, but the other one says to him, pretty much, "Leave him alone. We are up here because we are guilty. We are paying for our sins, but he's innocent. He's done nothing." and he asked Jesus to forgive him. He accepted Jesus into his life, and Jesus said, "Today you will be with me in paradise." How far would be?
25.
Already? Okay. As evening approached, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who had himself become a disciple of Jesus. Going to Pilate, he asked for Jesus' body, and Pilate ordered that it be given to him. Joseph took the body, wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and placed it in his own new tomb that he had cut out of the rock. He rolled a big stone in front of the entrance to the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were sitting there opposite the tomb. The other Mary, they're meaning Jesus' mother Mary. The next day, the one after preparations day, the chief priests and the Pharisees went to Pilate. "Sir," they said, "we remember that while he was still alive, that deceiver said, 'After 3 days I will rise again.' So give the order for the tomb to be made secure until the 3rd day. Otherwise his disciples may come and steal the body and tell the people that he has been raised from the dead. This last deception will be worse than the first." "Take a guard," Pilate answered. "Go make the tomb as secure as you know how." So they went and made the tomb secure by putting a seal on the stone and posting the guard. After the Sabbath, at dawn on the 1st day of the week, Mary Magdalene, Easter, on the 1st day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary, Jesus' mother, went to look at the tomb. There was a violent earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven, and going to the tomb, rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothes were white as snow. The guards were so afraid of him that they shook and became like dead men. The angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here. He has risen just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples he has risen from the dead and is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him. Now I have told you." So the women hurried away from the tomb, afraid yet filled with joy, and ran to tell his disciples. Suddenly Jesus met them. "Greetings," he said. They came to him, clasped his feet, and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me." While the women were on their way, some of the guards went into the city and reported to the chief priests everything that had happened. When the chief priests had met with the elders and devised a plan, they gave the soldiers a large sum of money, telling them, "You are to say his disciples came during the night and stole him away while we were all sleeping. If this report gets to the governor, he will satisfy him and keep him out of trouble." So the soldiers took the money and did as they were instructed, and this story has been widely circulated among the Jews to this very day. Then the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. Then Jesus came to them and said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age." Now that's where we're stopping with St. Matthew. That's from Jesus, the Palm Sunday, coming into Jerusalem. That goes to Jesus being mocked, beaten, crucified, and then Easter, Jesus rising from the dead. So
Okay.
that is this weekend, guys. Friday, Good Friday, Sunday, Easter. Jesus is alive and